Hi, George. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Perfect.
Amen.
Now, am I delayed?
No, ma'am.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad that you wanted to participate in this. I'm not sure how many people will show up. Of course, you know how people are. We're
Good.
busy. It's a
I
Saturday.
do know. And it's sunny outside.
Yeah.
Aha.
But I'm glad that you're able to do this because it's I think this is super important in my eyes um,
Sure.
to see just my personal opinion, me knowing you, to see a strong black woman who had a family
Sure.
um, and got her doctorate degree after
Sure.
all the odds
Right.
against, and
Mm-hmm.
so the access and the upper mobility that you had to fight through as a black woman is super important,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a story that needs to be told. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted it. Um, I wanted you to be a guest. I usually don't want to do guests per se, but I specifically thought of, since this month was Women History Month, it's important to highlight women and give them the just due, especially Black women,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because Black women in this, well, I hate to use Meghan Merkel, but I mean, um,
Mm-hmm.
she's royalty and she's still dealing with
Oh, sure. It doesn't go away. It's still present.
um,
Yeah.
uh, institutionally, Cornel West is fighting with his tenured at Harvard. They didn't want to give him
Mm-hmm.
tenured. So it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if you're a black intellectual or have
Mm-hmm.
several doctorate degrees, you're still black
Sure.
at the end of the day. So,
Sure, that's so true. So true. It's one thing that don't change is people see your skin color first and they make some prejudgments
hmm
before they even get to know you. And then even after they know that you are intelligent
hmm
and can stand on your own 2 feet, then they're intimidated by that. So it's like this lose-lose that we've already got these marks against us.
yes, 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 yes. And the thing is you hear conservative speak of and I really would love for you to talk about this, about the victim mentality.
Hmm.
Don't be a victim. Nobody owes you anything.
Hmm.
But they never bring in the PTSD piece, uh, the trauma as Black people that we have to endure in order
Right,
to overcome this victim of mentality.
right.
That's like telling a woman who's been sexually assaulted to just get over it and move on.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
you're not a victim. It's your fault.
Hmm.
Just the normal things. And so
Right,
um,
right.
I'd really love for you to talk about that piece, the mental health piece, about in the equity access lens of trauma versus being victimhood, or
Hmm.
and the climb up on that. So
Mhm, mhm. And so now, are we beginning, George? Do you want me to?
no,
Is that a question for me? Or are you just giving me some prompts as to what we'll talk about in the discussion?
yeah, I'll just give you some prompts
Okay,
in this
okay,
discussion. I'm gonna give people about another 5 minutes. Probably start about 107.
okay.
And if it's just me and you, that's fine.
Oh,
Because
sure.
for me, if you don't mind, because usually I record it,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
but I don't post it. Um,
Okay.
but and that's because I want to make sure that I give people space to, uh, if they're Caucasian, to be able to speak their minds and speak
A
their,
safe place.
yeah, the
Mhm,
what they may feel like it's a fact. But I
mhm.
want to give them that opportunity to do it, and then I go back and analyze it and say, well, how can I readdress, and when I'm having these conversations, I can use that as a reference. So I don't post it. I don't post the recordings. But if only me and you are on the recording, I would ask you. Here's Laura. She's a really she's an advocate for my community. So, but
Mhm.
I will record it, and then with your
Love that.
permission,
Okay.
I'll probably post it up on my YouTube page,
Sure,
um,
sure,
because
sure.
a lot of people don't like to join these kind of conversations
Mm.
because it's really tough to
Sure.
uh,
Crucial
expose yourself.
conversation. Mhm,
Yes.
mhm. And so, George, I would have you pull your camera down because I see like half of your face. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Thank you. Hi, Laura. How you doing?
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
Hello. So this is my my pastor. She's my pastor, but she also is I'm gonna let her introduce herself, but she's really a mentor to me, and I wanted to allow her space. One as an African American woman, and two as a woman, since it's Women History Month, to be able to act
Mhm,
to give her that accolades. I guess I should use,
mhm,
so she can tell her journey and her access through her her life as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, and also as a student and now a doctor um, in her field. And her
mhm,
professionalism, and how she had to climb through the accesses of the glass ceiling of a woman, one,
mhm,
the glass
mhm,
ceiling of uh, a black woman as a doctor with a PhD, um, and the things that she had to deal with just to support her family. So
mhm,
I thank you. I'm not sure who the number is of 503, but thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Uh, so we're gonna start in about 2 minutes. This conversation will be recorded. If you do not agree for to be recorded, that's fine. But it will be recorded, will not be posted. So if you do not agree, so if it's not a general consensus of that, it to be posted, it won't be posted. But this conversation will be posted because of that, of the specific nature of our guest. But normally we wouldn't. Normally I wouldn't post it. It would just be for academic research and understanding. So just a few ground rules. The people on this call I know are super respectful. So I don't have to worry about any type of trolling, any type of
mhm,
foul language or bashing. This is a free, safe space for those who want to participate. And I believe there is no dumb questions. There's only questions, especially in diversity and equity. When you don't know something and you've heard something, it's best to talk it out. Once again, I've said it last month, that I am not an expert at anything that I say. These are most of my opinions and also things that I've researched.
mhm,
And being around people of color and being around people of non-color, I have gained access to conversations that need to be had in throughout all the community, especially now, with race being such at the center of a lot of different things. And so with that being said, I am going to um, open up the floor for introductions. Um, First Lady, how would you like me to address you in this manner?
George, you know me. So Sandra is fine. I know who I am. That's the benefit of being who I am. So Sandra is fine. I am a pastor. I do have a doctorate, and so my friends call me Sandra.
Okay. So I'd like to, uh, Dr. Sandra, I'd like to ask you to go last in the introduction.
Okay.
That way we can just springboard off of who you are, what your and your background.
Sure.
So, Laura, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Laura Colley, and I live here in Vida on the Mackenzie. And I'm a graduate student in sustainable natural resources, and I've recently gotten involved in some DEI work related to natural resource management. And I'm just here to learn and support, and I'm excited for the conversation today.
Yay! Uh,
Welcome.
uh, I'm not sure if the caller on 503 with area code 503 want to introduce themselves. If not, that's fine. You can still remain anonymous. That's totally up to you. Uh, but you can unmute yourself at any time to ask us a question, or you could just listen in. So thank you. And then I'll just go ahead and introduce myself really quick. I'm George Beverly. I created COCA for community outreach, knowledge, and awareness for individuals who want to get to know other communities and be able to get the knowledge and the correct information. once again, I'll use this disclaimer is I represent myself and my family. I speak upon the Black community, but you have to understand each person that represents their own community has different experiences, different backgrounds, and so their beliefs may be different. So I'm only speaking from the area in which I believe the direction when I speak for the Black community from my personal experience. Thank you. Uh, huh? Mhm. Um, so, Dr. Stubbs, would you like to go?
Sure. So my name is Sandra Stubbs, and I am a pastor at Powerhouse Worship Center. And I also run a clinical mental health counseling center with a massage center connected off of a Good Pasture Island Road. So I am a doctor of psychology and a mother of 3 adult children, so experiencing this empty nesters thing right now. And so it seems to be wonderful. They come back to visit, and I say they're out of the house, but not always out of your pocket. So they're
That's
still
right.
very much a part of everyday life. Let's see, I am excited to be on this talk show today with Brother Beverly. And I'll just share a little bit about my experiences and what I've learned along the journey. I do believe that the journey that we all, partake upon, it teaches us how to be in the world around us. And either we let it be that instructor that challenges us to be better, or it becomes that instructor that causes us to be bitter, and we get to choose. You want me to jump into something here, George?
No, I was just waiting for you to finish. That's all. Um, does anybody have any quick questions about who she is and are curious about what she just said before she goes into um, her conversation? Okay, we can go ahead and move on then. I give people space to be able to talk because that's the whole this is the whole reason why we have these conversations is to have conversations.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
so I would like you, Pastor Sandra, to just talk about you as a Black woman growing up and your expectation of what you wanted to be in your life.
Okay. And so I grew up in Dallas, Texas. And so I grew up in a family of 5. And so I'm the middle child. And growing up, let's see, I did not aspire to be a first lady or a counselor growing up. I can't really remember um, what it was what icon or what idea versus just being a person who's a giver who helps. I always like to help people. I always like to sing. And we grew up in a church setting, and it was predominantly African American church setting. And so the successful people that we saw were pastors or preachers at that point, doing ministry and have people come in and leadership. And so I grew up in that arena. And so success for me just looked like growing up and being who I'm called to be and walking with God and doing that thing according to God's will. Um, in Texas, I know there was racism there. But because we grew up in this small, close knit community, we were pretty sheltered from a lot of things. I didn't experience a lot of racism until our particular street. They were segmenting off different streets to go to different schools in the neighborhood. And just so happened, my street and a couple of streets over was chosen to go to another school, which we had to be bussed in and out. And so being bussed in and out and going to W.T. White, predominantly Caucasian school. We were bussed in, bussed out. I think that's where I experienced a lot more racism or just divisions amongst us, where cheerleaders and people who were affluent, there were people that had money at the school. You saw this divide between those that did not. Basketball teams were predominantly African American. They were good at the sport, and they played that sport. But we also had soccer and other types of sports. That was a different culture, different race of people that predominantly filtered through those things. And without saying there was a division, there was still this divided preference. And for example, in the cafeteria at lunchtime, even though I had friends of all different races, automatically African American kids would go to this table over here and we just congregate over there. And Caucasian people would go over here, Asian and other people, they just find their group. And no one said this is where you belong and this is where you sit and this is where you go. You just found your group. And I'd like to believe that a lot of this had to do with feeling safe and feeling like you can be yourself and not having to be better than or work harder. Because in some arenas, you feel like you come in with this mark against you. And whether it's the classroom and it's already you're deemed as the one that can't read or the one that can't go up to the chalkboard. And so you're called on less frequently unless you wanted to, the teacher, for whatever reason, was trying to use you as an example. And so that was just like this inherent space in schools growing up. I remember going through that and being on the bus and doing a lot of different interactions with people and being in Texas and what that whole balance of being African American felt like. I don't remember ever being treated the way that I was treated when we moved to Oregon. It was a very different feel. You knew right away you didn't belong. You knew by the looks, you knew by the standoffish personality. I remember getting a job at a little office supply because I love pencils and pens and Post-its and those type of things. And so I remember getting a job at Henderson's, it was called, in Corvallis. My sister got a scholarship to Oregon State University. And so the deal, my mom's deal with this coach was you can't take her unless you're going to take both the girls because they need to be together. I'm not sending one of my girls this many miles away to be by herself. So we came as a package deal. We're 2 years apart. So we came as a package deal. And so, but I remember standing at this counter serving this little elderly Caucasian lady. She had to be about maybe late 80s, early 90s. And she asked to see my teeth. And she kept telling her son, baby, look, she's got beautiful teeth. And I'm standing there like, oh, this is weird, right? Do I smile or not smile or do I? And so I'm doing the whole checkout thing. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is great. You got beautiful teeth. Just keep brushing them. That's great. So, but when I went home, called my mom and said, Mom, I had this weird encounter with this elderly lady today who wanted me to stand there and smile. She wanted me to show her my teeth. And she wanted her son to come and see my teeth. And my mom said, well, that's one of the ways they judged whether or not slaves were healthy, is if they had good teeth. I never knew it. But my eyes were now open that some of these things are ingrained in the community and we want to pluck those out. But some of these things are so intertwined in people's experiences of life that they don't even know they're being racist at the point that they're exhibiting these things. And so that opened my eyes to a lot of different things. I remember as a group, we came about 8 of us, because my mom wasn't sending us this far without coming to see where her girls was going to be. My uncle came, my brother came. They were just scouting out the land. Where's your apartment? Where's the school? What's going to be your walk to school every day? So we know what road so they did the whole 9 yards. I remember walking up the street by Beavertown. What is it? Oregon State University. Walking up the street, all of us walking up the street. And this truck stopped in the middle of the road and he just did the head turn. Okay, guys, come on to the sidewalk. We're causing a scene here. Get on the sidewalk, stay together. But it just helped me to see that having this many Black people in one place was a foreign event for some people. And they're wondering what's going on in our little community that this many African American people would be just walking down our street. And so that helped me to know that, all right, Dorothy, you're out of your neighborhood, right? Not in Kansas anymore. And so watch your back, watch your surroundings. And I was a quick study as to how people responded to me, received me, judged me without even saying 2 words about anything. Does that answer your question? Does that help?
That was beautifully put. Uh, I thank you for that answer. I'd like to welcome Deborah Blair.
Okay, great.
Thank you for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself or?
I'm Deborah. I live in Leesburg, work in Eugene. I grew up in Oklahoma, so I kind of understand some of what you were talking about growing up in Texas. Yeah, I'm just here to learn more, and that's kind of what I'm here for.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just want to give everybody space who comes in. It's a small group, so it's an intimate group. So I just want to give people space. Thank you.
Thank you.
First Lady, can I go back to what you said about opening your eyes? Would you, and this is just my understanding, is this is what my definition, and they could be a specific definition, but that for me showed white privilege. The ability to not be able to move within your own community and become to look as a oddity or a show, a spectacle. A lot of a lot of people that I speak in spaces like this don't understand white privilege, where they think, well, I've never been given something, or I've never, my parents have worked hard. We've poor. I grew up in the ghetto, but they fail to realize they are able to do and say certain things that people without their skin tone cannot do. Would you agree with that? Can you, if you do or you don't, can you just kind of expand on that?
So true. And the privilege piece of it, you don't know you have privileges until the privileges are taken.
Mhm.
And I'll just start this out from this perspective. I remember George was with us when we went over to Africa,
Oh my God.
and running water, and being able to walk in traffic or walk up the street, or catch a cab, and food that's not going to make you ill. Those were privileges that we have
Hmm.
as an American, or maybe even sitting in the restaurant. Remember Mr. Richard sitting in the restaurant and wanting the food to be lickety split right away. We ordered it 30 minutes ago. It should be coming out 3.5 hours later. Your fish is still cooking. Like, did you have to catch it first? And probably did, right? And so there are certain privileges
Yeah.
that we came over to their country just having, because we've been groomed in this environment. We didn't even realize that they were privileges until they were taken from us, or we didn't have them any longer. There was a missionary that came to visit us from Uganda. Eddie, absolutely love Eddie. Came to live with us for about maybe 3 weeks or so. And I had bought my children some shoes. Now, they were not Jordans, they were on sale from a Ross rack. And I'm like, hey, this is your size. You have big feet. These are cheap. You can wear these shoes. Brought them home. And my kids, who think they deserve Jordan every time they walk out the house, or Air Force Ones without a job, like, that's a privilege that they think they ought to have, was like, well, mom, those are no name shoes. What are those? And I'm like, they're cheap shoes you can put on your feet and go out there and run around with. But they didn't want them. But Eddie, I said, Eddie, they're not wanting these shoes, and take them back to the store. And he says, why? What size are they? And I'm just like, oh, do you want to try them on? He sat with the box of shoes in his lap and just cried,
Mm,
just tears. And
wow.
I'm thinking I offended him, something, I did something wrong. It's not in his culture for women to give men shoes. And what did I do wrong? And he said, I've never had a pair of new shoes.
Mm,
They've always been handed down to me from brothers and sisters and all these other places. This is my very first. And for me, that helped me see that I had a privilege. My children had a privilege to say no. And here he is thankful that he has the opportunity to grab these shoes. The privilege that Caucasian people have is ingrained. You don't even realize it's there. You walk into a room, someone greets you, hello, how can I help you? The same African American person may walk into that same room to get a and you wander around to find a seat. Or maybe in the grocery store, somebody walks up and says, "Can I help you find something?" And you say, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for the Dijon mustard on this shelf over here." And an African American person walk in, we may wonder for 3 hours before somebody even says hi.
Or be
How can I help you? Or be followed and rush to get your thing and to get out. There's an ingrained privilege that just comes from having this skin color. Now, is it any fault of your own that it's, I've heard this argument about why should I be punished because of what my ancestors have done? And I don't see it as the punishment versus the awareness. And most people don't even want to be aware that it is there, that it is the privilege. I can't tell you how many different jobs highly qualified for was passed over in front of me, passed over, given to someone less qualified that was either friends with this person or she was just a different, she was just different. Let's put it that way. She was not Black. I remember having a job as a city recorder and still not really understanding politics, right? There's a lot of things that go on under the table. I was given an office that was really a closet that because of where I come from, I can make a closet look like it's the best office in in the whole city hall. And so moved all of these dirty boxes out, decorated the wall, hung some lights around the ceiling, put some different things on the glass window, that now this office that nobody wanted to be in became appealing to one of the attorneys that said, "I can take that space." Well, when it was a closet, you didn't want it. But now that I'm here and it's now been made to seem fit for purpose, fit for use, now let me just take it over. And so now I am devalued, and let's move her to, she can go remake another closet, another office. And so, but being in those environments helped me to see that some people have this privilege. And so if I'm well off and astute and Caucasian, I got this double privilege going on because now I got money that says I'm a person of power. And now I got the skin color just says that I'm somehow ingrainedly better than everyone else. And now I can walk into this little broom closet that's all this person's got, right? This little ewe lamb, if I was preaching. He's got this little ewe, I got this little lamb. And I can now say, I want what you got. Move. Pack up your stuff. Let's move you out of here. I remember my supervisor had a monkey that she had this thing with monkeys. It was this fetish. I thought it was just a monkey fetish until one of my other friends says, "You're the monkey." And it two and two were now clicked that, oh, okay. So now I understand what's going on here. It was this microaggression. Never knew it. Blind to it because I just want to come to work and do my job and go home. Give me a paycheck. I don't have to be your friend. And I think it was that mentality that got me through many different jobs. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not here to have an extended family with my work coworkers, because I know that in all 12 of you, one of you are going to be a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And if I let my guard down, somebody's going to bite me in the butt. And so we live this life constantly watching our backs and trying to be better, trying to cover our our footing and our ground. And so, but I remember that just so vividly. A little monkey had big bright lips and a little hat on his head that you can pull down, and then it made some noises as it scrunched back up. I remember it. Never once equated myself to being that, but somebody else made the connection for me.
Mm-hmm. Last week, Laura, you asked what could you do as a white person to um, be an ally. And I had a conversation with my therapist yesterday. He just came back from he's in the military, but he also National Guard, so he just came back. So I'll keep it short what I'm going to say, but I would like um, the ladies on this panel, the two guests, I mean the two visitors, to ask you a question, the
Sure.
difference between um, your upward mobility as a Black woman and their upward mobility, and how as an ally, when they see certain things like that that's happening in the workplace of a person of color, how can they be an ally and stop that atmosphere from continuing to grow as a cancer? So I'll make this quick comment. The first thing is when I was at the Roseburg VA, I had an eye appointment, and I was sitting there trying on glasses, and this old Air Force veteran, he had to be in his late 70s, was being pushed by the optometrist. Now, the eye doctor, he's being wheeled by the optometrist while, and I stepped back because it was like a little hallway. I'm trying on my glasses, and the Air Force veteran says, "Do you see the monkey in the mirror?"
Wow.
Now there was a
Wow.
nurse. There was a nurse there, and then the optometrist who was pushing him said nothing.
Wow.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is my therapist said before he left to this happened about like 5 years ago. He was at Walmart. He was buying stuff so he can deploy, and there was a white man in the line, and he says, "Oh, Bradford, you're gonna be, that's royalty, but slavery's coming back, and you're gonna be a slave."
Wow.
In the middle of the line at Walmart, no white person said anything to stop that conversation. That's the second thing. The third thing is and you don't have to, you guys don't have to comment on it unless you want to, but I want Laura and Deborah to address this with First Lady Sandra, Dr. Sandra. The third thing is if white people are wanting to be allies for and with people of color, they can no longer be silent. They have to step forward and say something. I believe that silence is complicit in the action of. It's a passive action that, oh, hear no evil, see no evil, do no evil.
Mhm.
But if you're not helping or assisting, uh, for example, I'll just give another example. If you see a puppy being abused, people will lose their mind.
Oh, sure.
Second thing is President Obama and President and First Lady Michelle Obama were called monkeys, and that Michelle Obama was a man.
Mhm.
They still have ideologies of these ideologies of what Black people are, and they're allowing this to go on and being talked about. So,
Mhm.
Laura and Deborah, can you please talk to Dr. Sandra about uh, wanting to be allies, wanting to have an understanding about your role being allies, but in a setting of supporting women and people, men of color, in the building process of trying to destroy or succumb to covert racism. I know it's a lot, but you could just pick something.
I guess one question I had. So I participated in an anti-racism training with grad students in the Department of Forestry last month. And there was a lot of discussion around whether you should try to seek like consent or check in with somebody before stepping in, and like, so if you see something happening, making sure that they want you to step in and help, or like what would you say about that? Like how would you
Great
receive
question.
somebody stepping in and helping versus would you like to be asked, like, do you need, do you want help with this, or what are your thoughts about that?
Mhm. And so um, I think it's situational. I think it depends on the situation at hand. If something like in the grocery store is going on and I'm caught in this interpersonal type of dynamic with someone else and I'm caught off guard and trying to gather my thoughts, and you see that I'm, taking a step back, then yes, stepping in and saying something at that point would be helpful because now I'm like, my fight, flight, or freeze is kicking in.
Woo!
It's like I'm like, okay, am I gonna be the pastor, the preacher, or the little girl from North Park? What am I gonna do? I got some choices to make. and I got to make them really quick, right? Because everybody is taping this now. Like, what do I choose to do? And so I think in that type of situation, when you know it's wrong, to speak up to it.
Mm-hmm.
When you know that, okay, this is putting somebody's life in jeopardy, and now I'm a witness to this racist behavior,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to speak to it. And it really takes courage and boldness, because I realize I'm offended, but other people are offended and embarrassed for me,
Mm-hmm.
and don't know what to say in those moments too. If it is a work situation, a job situation, where you're ear hustling, right? You're sitting around some things and you see some things going on, and your silence becomes a way to condone the message that's being brought, that I'm invaluable, or I could be treated this way, and everybody sees it and nobody said something. That may be a good place to come to me and say, hey, so I just want you to know, I saw what happened.
Mm.
I heard how they talked to you. I saw them roll their eyes at you. I saw them shut you down in the conversation. I validate it's okay for you to be pissed off and mad right now. I'm mad for you. That helps me to not think I'm going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes people tell you, oh, you didn't see that, or you didn't hear that, oh, it didn't happen that way. That you go back and go, now, did they really say what I thought? Oh, could you read this email for me? And because I'm getting a bad vibe from it, but it could just be me and my perspective and my lenses. So you read it through your lenses, you tell me what you say. And so in that type of situation, that validation may make a huge bit of difference, because now I know I'm not losing it, and I'm not the only one here that sees it. I think that was the only help for me, being in the city recorder's office, is I had one friend, one African American friend, one Caucasian friend, that was like, we see what's happening here. We see you being passed over. And so we want you to go talk to this person and go talk to that person. And from this point on, I want you to begin to create a journal. I want you to write down everything. And if you, or when you need me, I'm right next door. That was one of the benefits of having kind of this open space, that somebody was right there next door. So if somebody walked to my door and said something, I'm not the only person that heard it. Somebody else overheard it. Now, there were many times when they chose to not hear it, when I know they heard the tone and they heard the nasty vibe that came through the conversation, and they turned their face to the wall and kept typing.
Mm-hmm.
In those situations, I do think validating that that's wrong and you shouldn't be treated that way. How can I help you? Do you need me to support you while you go talk to the supervisor? I will be in the room with you, just to be a third party, because at that point, is my word against somebody else's. But if you want to be an ally and you saw what's going on, and it's okay, I think, when if you come to me to say that this is what I'm hearing, this is what I think, am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong, because you may not know either. You may be kind of sorting this thing out too. And I think it's okay to ask for the conversation to happen, so that we could figure out how to support
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. So I think it's situational. I think every situation is a little bit different.
Wow, that was amazing. That was a great question, a great answer.
Good question.
I'm
Absolutely.
enjoying this thoroughly.
Hmm.
This is really good. Uh, Deborah, before you answer that, I want to give whoever from the NAACP, if they would like to introduce themselves, or if not, just want to make a space for you to introduce yourself. If not, that's fine. Okay. So um, they choose not to. That's fine. So go. Oh, sorry. I think they
No,
unmute.
no, this is man. I appreciate it. This house, and I just had some time off and saw the conversation, and I appreciate the conversation.
Oh, you were Eric. You're breaking up. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I just like to say, hey, this is Eric, and I just really appreciate the conversation, and it's good to see everyone. Thank you.
Eric, good to
Thank you.
see you.
Thank you. He's the executive director at the NAACP. For those who
Hmm.
don't know him, well, most of us should know him. He's very
Hmm.
active in the community. So, Miss Deborah, can you would you like to ask a question involving being an ally and how to access that space to
Yeah, so I have kind of two different things where I see, so we work in my job with the public a lot, and it is a lot of older individuals. And so they don't necessarily share my views or don't have the most, they're racist a lot of times is what you're seeing. But there is that line of like, that you have to walk on maintaining professionalism while politely making it known that that's not okay, and just kind of balancing that, I guess, while also ensuring that my coworkers know that like I have your back. And so that was something one of two different things I was hoping maybe you could kind of help me with.
And so the word comes to mind, verbal judo. Right? Because I'm gonna get you. You know what you just said is racist, and I'm gonna get you. And don't call for me unless you want me to come. Right? And so the verbal judo is being able to maintain this level of professionalism while yet calling you to the table that this is unacceptable. And you're better than that, and I know you to be better than that and wiser than that. And a part of being able to use that verbal judo is having some level of rapport with the people that you're talking to, that they respect you to be the community leader that you are. And when you do come into the room, because I do have this racist mentality, you're going to be a challenge for me. Now, some people take challenges, head on with this fight. And other people are like, okay, show me why you think this way. And then help me see the errors of my ways so that I can make some adjustments. After you've come past a certain age, the filter is broken. It's just, or not even there, right? It's the real you comes out
Right.
without even thinking. And so some of that, I'm like, okay, am I going to charge this to just your age and you not understanding what you're saying? Or am I going to spend a lot of energy trying to educate you at this age and bring you up to speed to where I am? I think there's a choosing of the battles that comes with some of that too. Is this the battle that I want to fight? And is this the level of the battle that I fight? Or should I be looking at the children that's following you? Because they may be more pliable. Right now, you're stuck in your ways. You've done this for 70, 80 years. You're not going to change. It's just not going to happen. There's always going to be some presence there because these are the memories that you're pulling this information from.
Wow.
And those memories don't change.
Wow, that's good.
So some of that is going to be a staple in your life till you die. Now, can I learn to respect people and hold a difference of opinion and still be friends with you? Absolutely. That speaks to a person's character. And everybody's character is different. It's just different. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I had one other thing that I've kind of thrown back and forth in my mind ever since, because it just left a really not lovely taste. We had a training because of implicit bias at my work, but it was led by a white man who was saying, that was the first part. But one of the things that he was trying to put across was like how individuals that are Black, they don't understand, like how they don't get to choose their skin tone, yada, 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 yada. And one of my coworkers, in my opinion, very eloquently held her own, but she's like, that's not how I see this world. This is who I am, but I don't wake up, I'll shoot, I'm Black this morning type of thing. And they went back and forth for like a good 10 minutes arguing basically. And I kind of, because I felt like she was holding her own, stood back and checked in with her after, but I didn't know if there was something I should have been doing in that moment.
And I guess it would depend on how she received his comment. Like, are you saying that these people don't get to choose to wake up black and poor black people.
Mm.
They're now cursed with this skin color that they have to, carry around day by day. And somehow we've got to be this ally and support for them because they're just broken in this way. Or was there a different type of connotation or meaning
Mhm.
that, don't judge them or don't count them as less than? It's just the color of their skin. Like it all depends on which way she's taking this conversation on.
And she is an older woman who grew up in South Carolina. And so she very strongly, I know I could see where he was trying to go, but he was missing the mark in that
Sure.
conversation.
Sure. Yeah, and older, how do I say this? Yeah, my grandmother's great grandmother's grandfathers, there's a pride to
Yeah, and
being
that's
African American. So don't come at me talking about I've been cursed with this skin color. Been blessed with this skin color because it made me uniquely different to carry forth the plan that I have in my life to do. And so don't look at it as a deficit. And so I can get that sternness and that defiance that comes from years of fighting for the privilege to just be me without having to cower down to privileges of other people. So I can see her coming with that force that don't look at me as some unfortunate being. I'm blessed just like the rest. And so when you choose to see that, then you'll allow me to be an equal with you and not someone you've got to give a helping hand to, a leg up to.
That's awesome. And I'm going to take that conversation and bring it even further up the chain. What I asked you to think about the PTSD trauma of minorities to the victim. But before we go there, I want to say something about that. One thing that I believe my Caucasian brothers and sisters have to understand is that even when you use the word ally, there's some type of sting that comes with that because we're all human beings. So we're protected by the Constitution. Oh, sorry, wait, we weren't. Amendment of the our Constitution had made us. Even my lady friends, and this is American history, women history, so I want to honor you, ladies. But even you weren't part of the Constitution, but amended in. And so when we talk about allies, I can see why she would be kind of sort ofly offended the way he said it because like you said, he wanted to say a certain way, but she got offended because we as Black people are proud to be Black people. You as a woman are proud to be a woman, regardless of regardless of how you were born and what you are, but this is who you are as an adult. And I believe once we get past that identity crisis of, well, the Black people have always been this way, or the curse, as she says, this way, and stop looking at yourself as an ally and look at yourself as a friend, as a coworker, as a human being. And so that brings to the white fragility or the white privilege movement kind of thing. If we can just be human beings, because we're just asking, we don't need a leg up.
Right.
When we were, if you look at slavery, we were already moving and shaking then, and then the Reconstruction, we had billionaires. We had communities who were billionaires. There were more billionaires, Black billionaires, than there were poor white Irish people. So we've always had a pride and always knew how to work around adversity, and we're still doing it to the day. This is why we're such strong people. I'm not saying that other people are not strong, but just the things that we have to endure on top of what we call Black excellence. And First Lady talked about that before because it's we have to wake up being more excellent than a white person every day, and we are always teaching. Oh, for those, and I'll stop, and I want to get to the point, but I just want to kind of make this kind of a platform, make it crystal clear that when we wake up as Black people, I can only speak for myself. When I wake up as a Black man, I don't wake up saying, oh, you know what? Let's talk about racism today. Let's fight racism. Let's fight inequality. Let's fight for. I don't want. Look at me as a American man, human being, right? If I don't tell people that I'm a veteran, they would never know. I don't wear veteran garbs. I don't wear army garbs or nothing like that. But if I say something like that about race or something, they'll look at me crazy. And then I say, well, I'm a veteran and I experienced that in the military. And automatically they say, oh, you're a patriot. Well, I wasn't a patriot before I opened my mouth that I was a veteran. Uh, so because of titles and because of what we as people of color have to do in order to prove ourselves, we we have this what I want Pastor Sandra to talk about is the PTSD effect of racism. Now, trauma is trauma, right? But there's a different level of trauma when it comes to race. It's a continuous thing. Uh, it's like you. I don't want to use a word like that, but it's like you're being molested almost every day to a trauma of nobody's going to believe me. Are you going to be believed? Because every time you open your mouth, something's racist. Every time you open your mouth, you have to pull the black card. Every time you open your mouth, you're talking about access and equity and diversity. Why do we need that? Well, first of all, to Deborah's point, uh, why is a white man teaching about racial equity and diversity? Because he has no idea what we go through. And the reason why he was able to argue is because he was thinking that he knew something that more than a black person. No, you are a white male with super privilege. Sit yourself down and listen, please. Okay, and then Mr. Eric, would you like to comment uh, on anything that we've been talking about? I'm not sure if he's there, but oh, there he is.
About that?
Yeah, would you like to comment on anything we've been talking about?
No, well, no. I appreciate the conversation, and I'm just really just listening and taking notes, and it's very good to see the bright minds we have locally, and the conversations that are being dealt, and the perspectives that we're going to need to use going forward. And I think that, yeah, all of these things are true and necessary as we do this work. So I just appreciate the conversation. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you. Okay, First Lady, can you go ahead and talk to um, from your perspective as a therapist, with your therapist hat on, the trauma that Black people experience, the trauma that you experienced through your upward mobility for access and inclusion as a woman as well, to being a victim.
Okay. And so putting my clinical hat on, the post-traumatic stress disorder, experiencing some life-threatening experience that you at some point thought you were going to die.
Mm.
And yet you woke up the next day to continue on day by day.
Wow.
And in the midst of continuing on day by day, locked within your memory is this reoccurring experience. Oh, they called me the N word. Oh, they closed the door in my face. Oh, they spit on my, or they pushed my lunch tray over. Oh, they did this. And so now every time that I am triggered, because that word triggers comes with PTSD, and triggered may be like being in a crowded room. I'll give you an example. And so because of the many jobs that I've had walking through or becoming a counselor and having been denied certain rights to interview or to go for this position or not go for this position. Oh, you're not qualified, or you're overqualified, or you wouldn't like that job anyway. You're good at what you do. Why don't you just keep answering the phone at the front desk? You don't want to be a city recorder anyway. And someone's making that judgment for me, and having that be repeated and repeated, where rejection becomes my food. It's the fruit that I eat every day. So if it's one thing that I wake up in the morning to face is rejection. So how will I be rejected today? Will somebody pass me up on in the grocery store line? Will someone act like they didn't see me and push their card into me? I mean, it's small microaggressions, small things, because somebody doesn't like you. It's so nuanced, but there's not a lot of information, clinical studied journal articles regarding African Americans and PTSD. Right? The research continues to be unveiling and unfolding. Why? Because the situations are never ending. And more, we're traumatized by firsthand incidences. And then we've got this secondary trauma from watching a George Floyd on TV. Watching a Trayvon Martin on TV. And as a mother having young kids, now I've got this fear ingrained because social media now pops it up everywhere. And I can't remember, was it him or was it me? Because his mom cries, my mom cries. And as a mother, I cry for my children. And so I've got this ingrained fear, where my nervous system, my fight, flight, or freeze responses, when the cops pull me over, I'm married to a cop and my heart stops. Why are they pulling me over? What do I need to do? And I forget my name and forget where the license is and forget where I'm going, just for them to pull me over and go, oh, hey, Mrs. Stubbs, how's everything going? Don't do that to me. Don't. I don't need to say hi to you that bad. My whole world has changed in the matter of seconds it's taking you to pull me over. That post-traumatic stress disorder is being triggered from experiences that were life-threatening, that I didn't think I was going to make it. And now it's hard for my brain in this frontal lobe. I house all of these experiences. And if these experiences are life-changing, stifling, if these are experiences that changes how I view the world, because trauma changes how you view the world. Trauma changes. When we were over in Jamaica and these militia pulled us over and hitting their gun on the window, and they wanted me to get out the car but leave my husband in the car, trauma changes. So going over to Africa, I was like, nope, know where I am, who's behind us, who's in my vehicle, who's got a gun, who don't have a gun. I'm staying with you. George, don't leave me in this store. I'm sticking with you, because I know what trauma feels like. Wow. And I'm not going back. And it's this automatic responses that your body just goes into. Tears are jumping out your eyes when you don't want to cry. Hands are shaking when you know I've got to be firm and I've got to fight. But there's a fear that goes throughout your whole nervous system. And all of these things are going on just because I was stopped by a cop on the corner who asked to see my ID, but I didn't have to show ID. I wasn't doing anything wrong. And now this has become a horrific event in my life that I don't even want to go outside and walk to the corner anymore. I don't even want to drive a car anymore. I'll take the bus from now on. It causes these life-changing events to happen. Now people, and we're speaking about African American, but you got Asian communities that's going through this right now, Latino communities that's been traumatized by seeing somebody else's baby trapped in a cage, just trying to go for freedom, traumatized when my kid leaves the house in tears because I don't know if you're coming back home. Now that's a trauma. It's immeasurable. How do I measure that? Because it's daily trickles of fear and anger. It's like standing up under a water faucet with one drop of water hitting your head every second. Traumatizing. Eventually, it changes how I think. It changes how I feel. And people go, why are African American people so sensitive? Why are they always tossing the black card? Well, at this point, that's the only card I know. because everywhere I look, there is trauma happening. And I carry this along with me in my life. And it's hard to get back to what they call homeostasis. It's hard to get back to balance because things are imbalanced. And so we have this existential crisis that says, what the heck is balance? I'm so out of balance right now. I don't know what equality is going to look like.
Mhm.
It's been out of whack so long. And if I go too far left and become a Marxist, then now I'm just the angry Black person. But when I was the other way, where love conquers all, it was disregarded and he got killed. What is balance? Where do we find that balance at? And so it's so hard to put a finger on African American trauma and PTSD, where it's how do you treat them? Well, at first, someone's got to be willing to listen. Everybody's story is unique to them.
Mhm.
And what I see, when African American people get together, well, your story, now let me tell you what happened to me, and let me tell you what happened to me. And it's this one up thing that nobody really gets validated. That, Brother George, I hear your story, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And as long as you need me to listen, I'm here to listen. And as we're able to get that story out, if we're talking about healing the trauma, then I've got to get that story out as I see it and somehow reframe it to where I see myself as a person of strength and of power. And if I don't see that strength and power, I walk in defeat. So you ask me, why do African American people have this pride and this strength? And well, they've had to reframe many stories all the time. The daily life is a reframe. And because I reframed this story, I found the strength to go anyway. Well, I got to drive to work, but we got to eat. So I'm going to go anyway. I remember at one point, my father-in-law, he was driving the car, got stopped by the car day by day by day by day, got stopped by the police day by day, that he decided to drive a bicycle, got on the bicycle, riding and still got pulled over. Like, no matter what I do, I'm being stopped. And so, but that doesn't mean that I stop going. That just means I go anyway. And that's where trauma is unresolved. That's why PTSD is alarming, happening in alarming rates in so many cultural demographics, because it hasn't ceased. We got secondary trauma just sitting at a computer. What made George Floyd's event so much different from us? We're all quarantined, sitting in front of a computer. Everybody's got an upfront personal view of what's going on. And I don't get the luxury of a healthy distraction, as in going to work, so I can act like these things didn't happen. So it's a real thing. And how do we help people who have trauma? We listen. We've got to be able to listen, to be a good listener, and not a listener that minimizes people's story, but validates. And this is a kicker here. And in so many perspectives, to normalize.
Mhm.
I understand. I understand. And unfortunately, you're not the only one. How can we help each other? And the normalizing is what really perpetuates this story of trauma, because it is a normal state of affair. Every African American parent is talking to their kids about when you get stopped, not if you get stopped. When I remember, we had these conversations, numerous conversations. My daughter being pulled over, going to work, and in tears, trying to figure out what the heck is going on and what did I do and this officer jumped freeways to come over and pull her over just to say, you failed to signal.
Mm.
All these cars passed you. How did you catch me?
Hmm.
Because I failed to signal getting on a freeway? Really? Really? And all of that creates this undercurrent of fear. The fear response is off the chain, it's not regulated. And how do I regulate it? I build up
Mhm.
this strength, whether it's a face of strength or it's a heart of courage to call people out. And unfortunately, we do take on the assignment as the African American educator
Hmm.
to people of privilege. How did I get this job?
Hmm.
How did I? Because you fit this description, African American. Sure, you've got an experience. Come serve on our diversity committee. Come serve. And why is it upward mobility only looks like that? Trauma. Does that answer your question, George?
More than answer my question. You hit it so many levels of what I've experienced. You hit on so many levels. I've said this in many different groups that I was so traumatized as a black, not only, and your husband has said this as well when he went to Louisiana. Within Louisiana's culture, we have a bias against lighter skin and darker skinned people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a little boy, my brother's grandmother wouldn't let me into their house because I was too dark.
Mm-hmm.
I was always told that I needed to marry a white woman, or my kids were gonna be ugly and dumb, and they're gonna have nappy hair, and I was told that. And so from that age all the way to about 32 years old, I wanted to be white, and I didn't listen to rap music. I didn't think black women were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Just the brainwashing
Sure, sure.
and the trauma of not having a strong self reflection of who I was as a black
Sure.
boy, and now trying to be the man that or be the boy, I should say, that I missed when I was growing up. One of the traumas that I had was I liked this girl in junior high, and I said that I liked her, and she said, "My parents are getting a divorce, and a black boy likes me."
Wow. Wow.
Um,
It's amazing.
that sent me on the trauma of being a womanizer
Mm-hmm.
because I was invalidated. I'm sorry, I
Mm-hmm.
apologize, but it's just it it triggered me it to just this is why I believe that these talks are so important, especially
Mm-hmm.
so we can have conversations with our children because they're we're in a generation where they're being hurt by social media all the time.
So true. So true.
And like I said, I apologize because I just think about what you talked about trauma and how the trauma continues to live with you and it shapes you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I never seen myself as a victim. And I want you to talk about the victim part piece. But I never seen myself as a victim. I've always had to push myself to be better,
Mm-hmm.
not only for the black community, but also for the white community. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a little boy inside trying to be excellent.
Right.
And the
Wow.
trauma that people don't talk about. And these are the things, conversations, and why we have to have these great conversations. And I appreciate you coming on today to talk about that because it opened my eyes to a lot more than what I could even believe. It
Mm-hmm.
just makes me want to do, the Lord's work and do this even the more because uh, I know I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for my Caucasian people that are on the call or will see this, this is real. This is not something that we make up. It's not a fantasy. We don't have to create something that's not there. It's been like the first lady said, it's been engraved. So
Mm-hmm.
can you talk about the victim mentality? Um, the the talking the talking point of most conservative black people say that uh, if you are a Democrat, then you are just drinking the Kool-Aid of being part of the victimhood and the cycle of victimhood. And you need to pull yourself up out of the bootstraps. Can you speak and also speak to the um, from the victimhood, making the crab out of the barrel and making it to the top, and what the expectation as a Black doctor, expectation, what the community expects you to give back.
Mhm, mhm. And so okay. So before we go to victim mentality, just something I want to say on what you talked about, these negative self cognitions. And because the one girl's great, parents getting divorced, what else worse could happen to my life but a Black guy likes me, right? There's this who am I,
Mhm.
this crisis of identity. Who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I choose to be? And defining myself by somebody else's perception of me. And so I go on this search for who am I? Who, and I remember a little book as a kid with my kids used to read Little Swan. Are you my mother? Are you my mother? Are you, and measuring himself against other types to see, do I fit here? Only to find that I've been made a misfit. I've been created a misfit. And I'm created a misfit to stand out. And if I am to stand out, it's for a purpose. And I have to find that predefined purpose. One of the things that we do when we're dealing with a trauma is we have people walk through that trauma, of course, but then we also have them examine what's called the negative cognitions. What is the negative narrative that comes along with that experience? Because every experience has a I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I shoulda, coulda, wouldas that comes along with that. What is that negative cognition and what would you like it to be? And how much does that, what you hope it to be, resonate? How much of that resonates with you on a scale of 1 to 10? Oh, that resonates. I want to be better. I want to be smart and beautiful. That resonates with me on a level 10. Okay, let's sit with that thought a little bit. And we have people sit with that thought and work that thought in. Why? Because they spend 30 years sitting with that negative thought. It's already worked into their nervous system. So before I even think of that negative thought, there's an emotion of sadness that's already fused together with that. And then there's a behavior of being rejected or walking away or isolating myself that comes, is this bam, bam, bam that happens. And if I'm going to unwind or get myself out of what's called this victim mentality, I've got to work on some negative cognitions. I got to realize, what do I say about myself? How am I measuring myself to other people? And what do I hope to do? And so I just want to read to you the definition of victim mentality because I think it's great. Victim mentality is an acquired personality trait, which means you picked it up along the journey of experiences that I'm a victim, in which a person tends to recognize or consider themselves as a victim of the negative actions of others and to behave as if this were the case in the face of contrary evidence of such circumstances, which is to say, the circumstances themselves say that you are not a victim. You're choosing to be a victim, and you're choosing to be re-victimized by these types of circumstances. So if daddy abused me, then now spouse is going to abuse me, and every man in my life has taken advantage of me, I must be the victim. Versus taking that negative cognition and saying, you know what, I did think that. When that experience happened to me, I thought I could never make a man happy because of that. But what do I choose to think now? I choose to think that I am pretty, I'm beautiful, I am wise, I am smart, I am confident. And if I choose to believe that, then that's got to trump that negative cognition. And I also have to give myself over to believing something better about myself. And we're talking about, African American history and trauma, but I think this applies to people in general because all of us have walked through some season of rejection, some season of being put out, been voted off the island, and we like so and so better. Ever been in one of those sports with your friends as a kid and you had to pick people on your team and you were the last one picked and they hated that they had to pick you? I've been that person so many times, and it just validates that rejection that's on the inside of you. And you really have to realize, who do I want to be? Because if I can't see myself as that, no one else can see me as that. Can I see myself as being the doctor? Can I see myself as being a psychologist, a doctorate of psych? Can I see myself working in that role? And if I can see myself working in that role, what are the jobs? What are the qualifications that that person would have to have? What type of attitude would that person have to have? You know, the degree in and of itself didn't change me. You know what changed me? Because I was so sick of trying to get this degree by 4 years. I just wanted it to be done. Whatever I need to do, let's get. I was so done with. I'm over it. Let's just get it done with. What changed me was having this plaque. It was on my desk. Just got the actual plaque, and having my son come up, and he stood, and he looked at it, and he's just like, "Wow, this is huge. You did it, Mom. You really did it." And the look on his face of being proud that his mom completed this, knowing marital crisis, health crisis, family crisis, church crisis, and still following the path ahead. It was the look on his face that caused me to say, "You actually did this, girl. You did this." Wow. And as tears filled my eyes, I said, "Thank you," because I just wanted to be done with it. It was just one other thing that I put as something to do in order to just be a better person. And I was going to discredit like all the other certificates and things I've got. But you helped me to see this is a big deal. And you, as a woman, need to be proud of it. That was life changing for me. Because then I'm able to take this and look at all of the roadblocks, all of the doors closed, even with getting the degree and applying for a school, and your grades aren't good enough, or your GRE test is too low, and go retake this, and go redo your license again, and go great, and paying money to take all of these different tests when I know it shouldn't be this hard. Why is it this hard? Even from going to get a role as a psychology instructor at a university, it shouldn't be this hard. I already got the degree. My credentials are there. I've already worked in the, I've paid my dues. Now, why are the doors still closed? What else could it be? And I have to understand that I am a Black woman in a white man's world. And at some point, either I keep beating the door down until somebody opens it, or I give up. Luckily for me, I don't give up that easy. So I'm gonna keep knocking. I'm keep knocking on the door. I'm keep knocking on the. Oh, hey, I sent you this resume 2 months ago, and I praise God for this, because He's the one that gives you the strength to keep going when you don't feel like you have the capacity to do it. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Georgia? What did I miss?
No, you didn't miss anything. I thought that was excellent to the point. And then there's one more subject that I want to touch in, and then I'll give the floor to the other two ladies for closing comments. The question is the angry Black woman,
Mhm.
the perception of why do you have to fight so hard? You've already talked about it, but specifically how you have to uh, code switch, maneuver in order to maintain professionalism in jobs as a mother, uh, as a doctor, a college professor, as a pastor.
Mhm. Mhm. You know, I lean back on that verbal judo. I think learning how to communicate with people of different cultures from or different um, colleagues who are doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists. I think learning that verbal judo, being able to talk and to sit at a table and to listen and to learn. And I also think not being afraid to ask what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. It took me years to get there. Because if you're sitting at the table and you've got psychologists and psychiatrists and they're spewing out all of what they think you should be doing, blah, 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 with this particular thing, and you're going, oh, I don't think that's the case. But you're the one with all the letters behind your name. So I'll just go what you want, right? And so finding the boldness and finding my voice to say, all due respect, this is what I'm seeing. And this is why I say that. And here's my supportive documentation. Here is what I think may be best. And this is why I think that. What is your thoughts? Versus being angry Black woman, right? I'm going snap my fingers, cross my neck, roll my eyes, get up from the table, walk away, slam the book down. No, I don't have to be that. And I don't have a dog in the fight here. I'm working for you. And so these are your clients, your people. And so I'm just trying to help you get your people to a place that they need to be. And so realizing that, I think it helped me to hone this just verbal judo. Like, okay, number one, I got to figure out what is the problem? What is the real problem here? Because so often we mislabel the problem. The problem is you, and you're loud, and you're disrespectful, and you're no. The problem is there's a communication deficit. I'm saying this, and you're hearing this. So let me rephrase this. Now, tell me what you hear. Most people don't want to stop and have that conversation. Most people already label you as, if you're African American female, they already say she's angry. One plaque, one plaque that somebody gave me, he was the head of human rights at one point, and he was giving out just little accolades to people that had helped do a project. And on the little thing that he gave me was a quote that says, "Still waters run deep." Because I wasn't always the most vocal. But when I did say something, you knew I spoke. And I learned how to be quiet, wise as a serpent, what the Bible says, wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. And I knew how to ask the right questions and wait for an answer. Some people are uncomfortable with silence. And then they start accusing you of being, oh, you're angry, you're quiet, blah, blah, blah. I'm just listening. I'm just waiting for the right moment to say what I need to say. And I think though that verbal judo and just allowing the wisdom to not feel intimidated by people, even though they have many more letters behind their name than I had at this point. I had this guy, he was doing a some type of internal. I was at the Lane County Behavioral Health at that point. He was doing some type of internal audit on work environment and how people like their jobs and blah 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 blah. And so he came, and I've been there less than a year. He came and talked to me, and he says, "So, what is your degree level?" I'm saying, "Well, I'm an LPC, but I'm studying 1 year away from getting my doctorates." And he said, "So you have a doctorate degree and you're working a government job?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah. What else am I going to do?" He folded up his notepad and he said, "You won't be here long," and closed the door and walked, because those letters mean something. When people see, oh, you're a doctorate, you got to be wise or smart, and you come with this level of expertise that come with you, and they don't realize that I'm working this job because I've always had to work to get the thing that I needed. That it wasn't just handed to me. I couldn't just go to school and not work. I couldn't just sit around and wait for somebody else to pay the bills. I had to pay the bills and raise kids and go to school and get the education. I don't have that. Even a part of that is a privilege that you assume, because I'm getting this level of a degree, I should be able to. But it doesn't come easy for people of color. You have to work a little bit harder. You do. It just comes along with the territory. Things that come easy to me, I wonder what's wrong. What's the catch here? This is too easy. What's the catch here? What are they setting me up? Right, looking over my shoulder because this is coming too easy to me. I've had to work for everything that I have, and that work has given me a greater respect for the degree, for the job, for the clinic, for employees, because I know what it feels like to be marginalized. And so I want to create a culture, an environment where everyone is accepted and everyone feels validated. But that's because I had to work so hard to get here. Yeah, George.
Uh, that is just amazing. I like to thank you for your time, their time for spending with us and giving us an opportunity to hear your thoughts, your history, and just pick your brain. And I want, like I said at the beginning, is I wanted to celebrate women this month in a special way, only way in a way that I can. That I lean on my expertise, I guess you could say. God's given me the gift of the gab, so I'm using it. Amen. uh, and just giving people space to be able to
Sure.
receive the same. So I appreciate you. I honor you. I thank you. I thank the Lord for you, you and your family.
Mm.
And so I'm going to give the remaining time for you guys to Laura or Deborah, if you want to um, make any kind of comments or ask any questions before we leave. Is the floor is you guys.
So I just want to say thank you, Dr. Stubbs. Everything you've said has really kind of added a level of understanding to some things that I just really appreciate. I appreciate
Mhm.
your expertise and your sharing, and George for making this happen and bringing this to our community. I think
Mhm.
it's really valuable what you're doing. Um, one thought that I had, and so I feel like what I was hearing from something that you said, George, is that thinking about allyship in terms of allyship has some connotations that maybe need to be moved away from, and that thinking about it more in terms of building relationships and validating, listening, kind of bearing witness is more important than like asking ourselves how we can be an ally. Um, does that sound right or more on base as the kind of question to be asking?
Right. Like, for example, if you see a homeless person and you want to, and you sat there, you talk to them, you buy them lunch. You don't say, "Hey, how can I be an ally?" Regardless of what color they are, regardless of what sex they are. You go and you help them, and you have empathy and sympathy for them. So you see them as a human being of where they are now and the potential they could be. But when you say, "How can I be an ally?" There's something in there for you. As a military guy, that's how I see it. We had allies around the world, right? We
Mm.
formed these alliances. Why are we forming alliances when we're all human beings? So that's kind of how, not saying that I'm right. That's just how I look at it. And maybe we should start looking at it at that viewpoint, because for the gentleman that Ms. Deborah was talking about, he felt like he had to argue with the lady, and he didn't have to.
Mhm.
It's, if you're doing the work, you don't have to give yourself a title. You don't have to um, be like, "Oh, well, I help black people." That's like me saying I go and I volunteer at the church, and I'm helping people who are less fortunate than me. And then I go back to Pastor Sandra and say, "Well, I'm privileged because I'm in a position where I can help others." Another thing and you understand this as well, because it's about climate change, right? We as normal, we as human beings who work every day, who have a house, who have a schedule, uh, we can decide whether climate change is real or not real. That's a privilege, right?
Mhm.
Think about homeless people. They're not worried about climate change. They're worried about where their next meal going to be, how they're going to stay warm, where they're going to sleep. So it is a way that we view, and we our perception of what we're doing in our purity of um, our thoughts and what we're going to do, in our actions and what we're going to do. So um, I don't necessarily think that ally is a bad word to use, but I think once we understand what those kind of words mean, for example, the best example I can give was do you remember um, his name is James Brown, the aboriginalist? Him as a white man is held in high esteem because he helped fight off the slave owners, because he was a white man, and we cheer him because he's an ally. Well, why should he cheer for him when there's
Mhm.
other people, Native Americans. There were other Black people who were fighting for rights. People from England were fighting for our rights. Why are we uplifting this white man, especially when we're talking about Abraham Lincoln? We're supposed to give Abraham Lincoln this super pass because he freed the slaves. No, he didn't free the slaves. He allowed himself to put himself in a position because he had the power. And even when he had his power, have you ever heard of Juneteenth?
Mhm.
Texas still said, "Oh heck no!" So Abraham Lincoln had to call the army and the navy in order for them to succeed to the commands in which he put forth. And so even though he was the president and he had power, he still had to reinforce his power. So was he truly an ally? Did he truly free us? Because we're still talking about jobs, equality, access, diversity. Not only we're freer to move around, but even then that's not true, because if I go to the wrong place in Texas, or I go to the wrong place in Iowa, if I go in the wrong place in Rhode Island, if I go in the wrong place in Utah, Wyoming, there might be some consequences for me. So am I truly able to walk freely as a Black man or a Black woman or a Hispanic woman or a Hispanic man or a Chinese man? And then I'll stop and I'll let Ms. Deborah say, and if you have any more comments, you can say. So I was in a peer support training, and in the peer support training manual, they said, if a person has Mongolianism, then blah, blah, blah. Well, do you know that's a racist term?
Mhm.
Well, Mongolia is actually, of course, an actual country, uh,
Mhm.
but they use that to talk about kids with Down syndrome
Mhm.
because their faces are flattened.
Mhm.
It's a trait. So even within the teaching of how to support people, there's racism in the text, and they did not know that until somebody who was knowledgeable was able to say, "Hey, this is a racist term." So even in the text, when the text thinks they're right, they're actually wrong because they haven't done their homework and they've only been using European type of scholars. So yes.
So I just want to thank you as well. One question I had is, you were discussing a lot of how you are having to take on the role of education and etc. And while I have done some reading, is there suggestions on how we can kind of make it so you're not having to take on that role as much, and work I guess I can do on myself that doesn't put the onus on you, if that makes sense?
Mhm. And I heard you guys talk about some diversity groups or trainings, or
Mhm.
even being what was mentioned as an ally. And when I think of ally, I think there's a fight we're going to, and so arm up because we're going to join forces to
Mhm.
go fight something, not necessarily the friend where we're just sitting at a coffee bistro having lunch, right? And so that's kind of wrapped in my brain when I hear the word ally, is that we got to go to battle against something. Um, Educating self, there's so many books, so many things to learn and to read about African American culture, African American history. There's so many things out there, so many trainings out there. Even in mental health counseling, there's so many trainings for like therapists who are working with African American clients, that is out there and available, and some cost you nothing to
Mhm.
get. And I think taking those steps, like just the 2 millimeter shifts, where you're coming to educate yourself on certain things,
Okay.
and how I am to not just be friend, because I think a person who shows yourself friendly has a friend, and so you don't have to go learn how do I get a Black friend, right? And so just be friendly. The Bible tells us that. And so doing your own research and your own understanding, so that when you do engage in conversation, you're coming with some information that's been gleaned and that's been learned, and it now becomes a give and take.
Okay.
in the conversation, and we may learn from one another in the conversation versus tell me how you want to be treated, tell me how you want to be, called, and how should I, acknowledge you, and how should I, all of these questions, like what do you mean? I'm a person. I'm
Mhm.
just how you said hi to the other person that came in the store, say hi to me, right? Don't ignore that I'm present. And so being the teacher consistently becomes exhausting
Yeah.
because you never really get to in-depth conversation, because I'm always trying to teach you about how to respect differences. And that respect of differences should be something that you as a human being would want to glean and want to know, how do I do this? How do I become more versatile in my perspective of other people? I believe when we got ready to go to um, Africa, we went to this cultural competency course, a 12-week course on how do you work with people in other countries, other continents, other cultures. And that was a part of us taking the initiative on ourselves to say, let's not go over there and act like we own Africa.
Mhm.
Let's meet them where they're at. So let's get some experience here. And at that point, we're able to take what we've learned and phrase it into a question that invites give and take conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, versus to teach. I'm no longer the teacher at that point. We're just in a conversation about people and preferences. Does
Okay.
that help?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I want to add a few things to that. So I lived in Oklahoma. I lived in Geronimo. I have a house actually in Geronimo, Oklahoma. And when I was there, one quick fact: do you know there's 25 uh, 25 states that it's named after Native Americans?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't even know our own history.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what?
Okay.
So what? And I didn't learn that until I saw a Native American woman say that. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think
Mm-hmm.
about that. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just by so happenstance. It's on YouTube. But the reality is how do we learn? Like First Lady said, how do we learn about stuff? We have to take those initiatives. So when I was in Oklahoma, I'm big into languages. My mom speaks Creole French because um,
Mhm.
because we live in Louisiana. And when my mom and my aunt died, that language is going to die in our
Mm.
family. So when I was in Oklahoma, there was a lady. She was 102 years old. She was the last speaking person of her tribe who spoke that
Mm-hmm.
dialect, and that dialect is now deceased.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma and where I live is called Comanche County.
Mm. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So Comanche County, how many Comanches actually live there?
Right.
Did
Probably
you know?
not very.
Right. So
Exactly.
Geronimo, who was an Apache, was imprisoned in Oklahoma in Comanche County. And the reason why I'm explaining the reason why I'm saying these things. How many people really know about Geronimo?
Mhm.
They're living in a native land with a native county with a native name, and they don't even know what the name's about, who those people are, because it's not in
Mm-hmm.
their life. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just something that they talk about, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was in Arizona just recently, and we were in a gift shop, and we were buying some stuff, and me and my wife wondered, uh, uh, Arizona, we were in Tucson, and so the shop had a lot of Native American things, and so we asked, "Is it going to go to the tribes?" And she said, "No, there's no tribes here." Wait, first of all, you're selling uh, Native
Mhm.
American items, and there's no tribes around for you to give the donations to. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then was talking about Fort Eric, or is it Fort Eric or Fort Myers or something like that. And she said, if you go down the road about 20 miles, you can go there and you can see all the stuff set up. And I said, oh, that's cool. I really love studying about the Buffalo Soldiers. And she said, yeah, there's some stuff about them, but there's not as much. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, she said, you can go see where they live. I said, well, I can't go see where the Buffalo Soldiers live because they weren't allowed to live on base. And when I
Mm.
said that, her whole face changed because she
Wow.
didn't realize what she was saying.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Buffalo soldiers were soldiers who tracked down Native Americans, but wasn't allowed to live on the same base in which the white counterparts were doing the same thing. And they weren't protected. They had to live in tents outside of the fort.
Wow.
So even in that context, somebody who's working in a gift shop didn't even really think about that because it's not in their face.
Right.
So my point is when I talk to my Caucasian brothers and sisters is I don't go in thinking that they know everything. I don't even go in expecting them to know what white privilege is because it's not in their face. If it's not in your face, you don't worry about it. Just like climate change. Climate change is not a big deal until all the wildfires happening in my neighborhood, in my community.
Sure.
And now
The
floods are happening. There's no wildlife. We used to have elk and
Right.
deer coming. I haven't seen a cougar. I haven't seen a bear. Where's the endangered owls that we were protecting? Where's the indigenous insects? And I know I'm kind of going in depth, but the reality is it doesn't affect you, or it doesn't become a problem until it's in your face and you have to live with it.
So
And
true.
so when we have conversations like this, for me, this is the reason why I started this, is because we have to have real conversations, whether it's fact, opinion, falsehoods, or whatever. I'm not going to be able to change a lot of people's mind, and I'm not here for that. But I want to create dialogue and space for people to at least hear the truth. Because the truths that we hear on the television or on YouTube or whatever are not the truths. We as a community, from different aspects. You live in Eugene. You said you live in Leesburg, right?
Yeah.
Leesburg, and then Vida, and then Eugene, and I live in Blue River, and so we're up and down the valley. But the reality is we're a community, and so we're in each community. We're a representative of having good conversations about equity, inclusion, and access. And so, why are we still talking about access? Is the question. Is it's like everybody should have access, just like we have access to water. Well, guess what? Not everybody has access to good water, especially if you live in Oklahoma, especially if you live in Texas. So even though it seems like we have good water, we don't have good water. It's not. That's a privilege that people in Oregon can say we have clean water. You go to Texas and try to drink their soda, you be like, oh, what is this? So anyway, I really appreciate this time, and I know the hour is late, and so I'm not going to keep you, but I just want to once again thank everybody for being here, and I'd like to thank you, Pastor Sandra, for a great conversation, a great in-depth talk. I've learned so much, and I hope everybody else who was here learned a lot. And so, like I said, I will be posting this. If you do not want me to post this, we can talk about that. But these conversations needs to be put out there, and Laura knows about what I said. I will not post these conversations, but if I have a special guest, I would like to post them because it's specifically targeted. The specific target today was to highlight because it's Women History Month. I wanted to highlight a woman, and I wanted to highlight Dr. Stubbs because she just got her doctorate, and I wanted to celebrate her in her in her achievement. And the upward mobility of access of being a doctor within the state of Oregon in her profession. So this was targeted and was a specific meeting. And I know that the numbers are small, but it does, because we have numbers. The Bible says 1 and 2 are gathered, he would be in the midst. And so when I post this, we don't know who will see it. We don't know in the future how somebody will learn from it. So thank you for participating. And I'm going to post it. It's my Sound Off Forums YouTube channel. So I'll post it there, and then I'm not sure if I'll post it on Facebook, but I'll see about that. But it'll definitely be on YouTube. So for the love of the group, we can just say thank you, and you guys can say I'll say bye or say something, and we can just
Thank you for having me on, George. This was great.
Thank you for sharing with me today.
I've learned so much today. I really appreciate it.
I have too. I mean, it touched my soul. it resonated a whole lot of stuff. And so we are ambassadors. We are all ambassadors. Why are we all ambassadors? Because we're all human beings. And so we should at least have a smile on our face, because a smile is infectious. So thank you. You guys have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Uh-huh.